Well, hallelujah, we have been getting some rain for the past 2 or 3 days, and it's still drizzling. So the topic I want to discuss today is what things you really want to do now. And even though it's pre-fall, we're about to get to fall, the beginning of the true gardening season, these are things that you can do on a day-to-day basis depending on weather conditions. So today it is kind of cool and rainy, and I've got 5 things that we want to do to take advantage of this wonderful weather. Take notes. Here is my number 1 thing that I am doing in this cool rainy weather. And by the way, what I love about this tip is that it's based on a skill. It is based on something that we all have, no matter how inexperienced or experienced we are in the garden, and that is relying on your good old common sense. It will take you a long ways in helping you determine what you need to do in your garden. And knowing your garden, knowing it intimately, knowing what specifically needs to be done in your space will also help you determine what's on your list. So number 1 on my list, with all of this rain and more to come, is I'm really wanting to revive my annuals. Now, I've been holding off on giving any kind of blooming, any kind of feeding really to most of the things in my garden because it's been in, 95 to 100, and I didn't want to stress the plants anymore. But today, well, it's sweatshirt weather. It's absolutely wonderful, and it's going to be cool for a good period of time. So, because I know that I've got my garden tour coming up on October 4th, more on that later, I want to make sure that my blooming plants are blooming their heads off in time for that garden tour. So I'm going to start fertilizing them now. I used this EB Stone Organics, which is a granular. I could have also used Super Bloom or whatever the blooming variety is that Espoma has, but I had this in my shed, and so I went around and I sprinkled some of this according to package directions, like on these very, very sad geraniums. I sprinkled it around my sun patience that are in the ground. I sprinkled it around all of my pentas and my lantana that were blooming in front. And what I want to do is I want to get this on the surface of the soil. I can work it in, and then when it rains even more, it will really penetrate down. Plus, all of these plants have really, really been saturated. So the surface of the soil is very, very receptive to any kind of fertilizing and more moisture that might be coming its way. I'll be doing more grooming on the plants themselves, lots of deadheading, and also obvious things like this that need to be put in place. This is that outdoor lighting that need to be put in place after all of the rain. Now, I'm doing this both in the front and I'm doing it in the back. I'm doing it to all of these geraniums over here. I'm doing it to all of my container plantings, my lantana here, my sun patience. Well, as I said earlier, I'm just pretty much doing it to anything that blooms. So that's my number 1. When it's cool and rainy, it's time to fertilize those annuals that will bloom until the end of fall.
So today's video is sponsored by Omnilux, and I want to show you a new product that they have, a new kind of garden glove, if you will, for those of us whose hands, whose arms have just really been beaten up by the sun, by the soil, by the water damage, by rose cuts, by all of those kinds of things. Because this magical, well, it's not really even magic. It is science-based device will help rebuild collagen. It will help with age spots, fine lines, discoloration, all of those things that plague us gardeners because we are so hard on our hands. And I love the fact that it's really, really targeted because you might be like me and you've done all sorts of things to protect your face over the years, but not so much your hands. And they may be giving off your age even before your face and neck and décolleté do. As you know, I am a huge fan of the Omnilux face mask, but now I might even be a bigger fan of this glove for your hands to help reduce the signs of aging. And by the way, on a personal note, I was at my dermatologist last week and they were selling these Omnilux devices, and they said they are the only type of red light therapy that they will sell because they're FDA approved and they have proven to be effective. If you too want to try out one of these amazing gloves to repair the damage on your own hand, then just use the QR code that is on the screen right now. Take advantage of the discount, because I promise you, you are going to want one too, especially after you see the results. I am very, very religious about using my face mask, and now I will be equally as dedicated and as disciplined about using this for my hands. If you don't want to buy it for yourself, then I would recommend putting it on your Christmas list, because Santa will be coming before you know it.
Little trees are also great to pull out when it is wet and cool. So here you go. Here is my outfit of the day. My hat is from San Diego Hats, and I will put a link. Kayla just said she needed one of these, so I think that might be on Kayla's Christmas gift list. We'll put a link to that. I love my sweatshirt, and I love the fact that I can wear it right now. Stuart, let's make sure that we put a link to my sweatshirt below. And look, you can see my speaker or my mic kind of poking out. I'm a mess, a muddy mess. Just some regular old black leggings and my favorite Dover saddlery hunting muck boots. And then some Cool Jobs gloves. Very, very, very messy, and some earrings that were a gift from my friend Deb. So there you go, my very muddy outfit of the day. But I have to tell you, this hat is great to wear when it's just raining or just misting a little bit and you want to stay dry. And one more ask, and that is, if you like this kind of content, please make sure to subscribe, hit the follow button, but more importantly, I think share or super share. There's some kind of new thing coming out that we'll be telling you about with others who might find this content helpful, especially new gardeners who are just, well, they're just wanting to learn all of the ins and outs of gardening from people like you that are experienced in this wonderful world of horticulture. So there's my ask, and let's carry on with the rest of the video. Okay, number 2. This is one of those chores that you really want to channel your common sense, because we are not breaking a rule, but we're just going to be a little squishy around the edges. And that is transplanting and or dividing some perennials and shrubs, because now, again, the ground is so soft, it's so moist, it's so much easier to do than when it's hard pan clay. Now, typically, you don't want to work the soil too much when it is as wet as it is right now. But in this area where I've got really good drainage, and in other areas where it's just going to be so cut and dried, if you will, that it doesn't matter. So I am going to do some transplanting right now. So right here, you can see that I've got this Nandina right here. And it just looks kind of out of place, and it's also getting too much sun. It also breaks up this line of boxwood that I have, which is kind of following the contour of this rounded edge on the east side and this berm. Now, this area gets very good drainage because it is on a grade, and so I feel a little bit safer about working this soil than I would if it were in another area. The other reason common sense tells me is I can do this is because these are really tough shrubs, and I know that typically under almost any conditions other than the very highest of heat, I can transplant these with great success because I have done it before. So I've got my little shovel that my friend Kat gave me, my SNEEBOR shovel, and I will try to get a link. I believe maybe White Flower Farm carries SNEEBOR tools. And if so, I will try to get a link from Elliot. So I am just going to get as much of the root ball as possible, but that's really not as much of a concern as it is with other plants that are even more temperamental than these tough Nandinas. I can already tell from what I have dug up so far that sometimes you can easily pull it out by only kind of digging one side. This one, probably because it's under the roots of a tree, it's fighting me a little bit more. But look here. We have had, gosh, how much rain do you think we've had, Stuart? 5 or 6? But look down here. Look at how dry that still is. And that's because this is on a berm. It's underneath the shade of this tree, which prevents some of the rainfall from penetrating through. And so I know that this soil is really not going to be too wet. And why is that important? Because when it's too wet, especially clay soil, when you dig around in it too much, you can ruin the tilth of the soil or the friability of the soil. So this one is actually going to move back here to replace a dead arborvitae that I did not practice good sense on and that I transplanted probably when it was a little bit too hot. I should have done that in the spring. So right now, typically I would come in and I would water this hole before I transplanted this, but this soil is already kind of moist. I will make sure to give it a really good drench once I get it in place. And it will be able to handle this exposure better than that arborvitae. The arborvitae will go to the great compost heap in the sky. And over here, I'm going to do my classic Steal Peter to Pay Paul. This is all within kind of the same, that same number 2. Take advantage of this kind of weather to transplant or move around or divide existing plants. In this case, some shrubs, and in some cases, perennials. Now this is a better boxwood that's really very crammed into the corner here. Okay, so this better boxwood, very, very tough, really got kind of established a little bit more than I would have expected. But that's just a testament to what a good plant it is and the fact that I think it will transplant pretty easily. So I'm going to come up here now. Be gone! And in this same location, where I kind of already have a natural hole, get rid of some of these roots. And look at how good and friable this soil is, albeit it does have some roots from the tree. But this, between the rain and the cooler temperatures, this should really transplant very successfully. So this root ball isn't very deep. I don't want to plant this too deep. So I think this will be just perfect right here. It will kind of finish this boxwood border, torque it to the direction that I want, backfill it. Don't even need to put in any new soil because this soil is still pretty good since it's relatively new. And then to finish this off, what I'll do, because The mosquitoes are starting to come back, and I don't want any kind of containers to be filled with water that can attract those mosquitoes and mosquito larvae. I will take some of that precious rainwater and I'll water these in. Okay, and before we progress to number 3, a couple of things. Make sure you stay till the end because, boy, my potting area in my forgotten space is really coming along. We're doing something special today. I'll show you what that is and what products I have coming for that area. But I also wanted to show you one more thing. If you didn't watch why I always break this one rule video about why I overplant, here's a perfect example. All of these boxwoods are doing really, really beautifully. But for some reason, this one right here is not doing very well. In fact, it is just, well, it's really most sincerely dead. So I'm glad that I planted all of these because these now will really hold that kind of structural integrity, architectural integrity of this whole berm here. I can cut this down at the base using my WORX pruners and you won't even miss it. But that's partly because I overplanted to begin with. So you might want to watch that video if you haven't watched it already. And just as I said, you hardly miss it. So let's just take a moment here to be grateful for all we have, but also think of others that are struggling. And we want to do a shout out for our friends Pat and Millie who work with Kayla, who are struggling with some health challenges right now, and also your mama. So I just want all of you to send positive vibes, thoughts, prayers, whatever you can, send them Kayla's way, because in her world right now, I think you could use it.
It's just a little bit tough.
It's just a little bit tough. Now, this is a side note, but this is going to be a special regular segment that we are introducing called Ask Kayla. So if you've watched my channel for any length of time, Kayla is a recurring personality. She owns the landscaping business Cityscapes, and she is going to answer some questions that I think we all have as gardeners, but she has particular insight too, since she does this on a professional basis. So today we are going to talk about installing a wrought iron railing along here. I can't remember if we got one or two. I believe just one. We decided just on one. I want to make sure that this gets in place before the garden tour on October 4th. So here is my very particular and personal Ask Kayla question. Number 1, Kayla, I ordered a wrought iron railing. I think I just got it online from probably Amazon. I'll have to check. And can you install it for me?
Yes,
Okay.
we are going to install it for you.
Are going, but you're not going, as long as we're talking about things we can do in the rain, there are things we can't do, and one of them today would be to install this railing.
That is correct.
So this will be a future episode. But describe to me a little bit about what you told me and you recommended we should do in the installation of this railing and the boo-boo we made at the beginning.
Right. So the beginning, this should have been installed, what, July, I think. And the railing we had, we got it either too big or too small, depending on how you look at it, right? So if we were to have set it up here, which would be, kind of normal that you have it on your first step, we were going to leave like 4 steps below without any railing.
Okay.
And we just thought it was going to kind of look a little odd.
But it was even too long. But it wasn't long enough to go all the way to the bottom.
That's right.
Okay.
And so then if we reversed that and we tried to install it from bottom up, we were going to leave the curled hand piece that you grab onto first, it was going to be sticking out into the sidewalk.
Into an awkward spot.
Right. And then we were going to leave too many steps coming up, where really on your property, because of the brick wall, we need those handles. We were going to leave too many of those steps with nothing. to hold on
So
to.
what we kind of decided on was a compromise, and you can elaborate on this a little bit more. Really, when you get down to here, you've got the brick wall that
That's
you can
right.
support yourself on, and it's kind of attractive, and I didn't want to in many ways detract from the brick wall. So our compromise was, why can't we kind of start from here on up, which is where you really need the railing. The other thing is, even when you're down here, you come up one step and you can already grab the railing.
And it's already there, easy for you to hold on to.
Okay, so describe exactly what we decided to do.
Okay, so we discussed 2 railings or 1. And we ended up going with 1 to start with, because we can always add the second one. And that was so that people coming off of the sidewalk, either direction, we could come here, put our hand here, up, even for someone small like me. It's very comfortable, very convenient place to have a handle. And then we have a handle all the way up to the landing. So our post will be mounted probably on this step, but because the handle actually extends 6 or 7 inches, you still have that handle here, but it's not sticking so far out that you can't come down the walkway in either direction.
Right. And we did decide, this is, again, we're channeling our common sense. Since most people are right-handed, we're going to put this one on the right side. If I decide that I want another one on the other side, I can easily, and I see it was from Amazon, I can easily order another one identical to it, and we can install it on the left side. But at a minimum, I want 1 in place. And I also want to do 1, again, this is a common sense thing, to make sure that I like it before we put 2 in.
Right.
So that was our Ask Kayla for today. Kayla, can you do this for me?
I can, but not today.
This is one of the most fun things, number 3, that I think you should do right now, and that is really refresh and replenish any container gardens that you have. So a lot of my urns, some of my other container plantings, they are looking a little bit the worse for wear. They are tired. I have deadheaded the Angelonia, and I also have pretty big gaps where I have literally cut out or pulled out some of the annuals that were in here growing. But you can see that I've started to remedy that by just tucking in little 4-inch annuals in some of the places that need filling. So I have started to do that. Very easy to do right now when it is cool and rainy, and also very, very easy for them, or more easy, I should say, for them to get established once they're in place, because the temperatures are cool and rainy and they love it. I also fed these pots with some of the before mentioned blooming fertilizer, so these should come out and really be full and resplendent long before even the garden tour on October 4th. Now likewise, and this is kind of a fusion of tips 2 and 3, I want to do it in the window box. So what I did was I really cut back when it was still dry. I cut back all of that Nepeta. You can see on this side, I just did it recently. This I did a while ago. And when I did that, it kind of left a gap of color that I need to fill, I think, to really make this look its best. So I want to make sure that I get some of this pink penta in there if possible. Now, I'm not sure I can go to my nursery and find this exact color. Where I know I can find it is if I shop my garden. So I'm going to do just that. And I have identified, so I've got 3 of those running in a rhythm along this walkway, and I've got 3 over here. But I've got a 4th one that is hiding behind this conical topiary right here. And it's really not getting enough light. And so pardon me? I thought it could hide from me, but oh no, nothing is safe. Nothing is safe from my avarice for more pink right now. Okay, and look, while I've got this in here, perfect time to pull out any weeds or anything is while the soil is wet. So I'll just repair that, heal that, maybe come back in, add a little bit more dirt. Now that I have stolen this from Peter, here is my Paul. I'm going to come back in here. And this is very, very easy work. I am just going to dig down in here far enough, and I'm just going to take this, fill this gap, position it so that it's a little bit peeking out towards the front on its side, because your plant's roots really don't know what's up or what's down. They're up from their down, so I'm going to put that in there. And then because this is a little bit dry, because it has been underneath my roof line, I am going to water it in with some precious rainwater that collected over the past couple of days. So there you go. I am refreshing and replenishing both my containers and my window box. Okay, this is another example of transplanting some things, stealing from Peter to pay Paul, and also rethinking your container gardens. I seeded in my seeding troughs, I seeded some white zinnias, and they are in here and they're not really getting enough light, and I want to transplant them. So I'm going to do that. But the other thing that I noticed, and Sergio, could I get your help, sir?
Yes.
Actually, it's probably going to be both of you that help. And yes, I have Sergio here. Sergio, say hello to your friends out in YouTube land.
Hello.
And please introduce your...
Oh, it's OC.
OC?
Yeah.
Okay, OC. Sorry. Yes, okay. And thank you, gentlemen. And so they're going to help me with something. So as I've been reanalyzing my container gardens, I realized that number one, this really didn't look very good on this wall. The other thing that I noticed was this container perfectly matches the containers of my neighbor Lori next door. So I asked her if she would like to inherit this container, and if I put it on this other cross wall from her corner post to the edge of her house, and she said she would be delighted to have it. So gentlemen, do you think I could get you, because this is way too heavy for me, to relocate this pot to right here? Okay, let me remove those plants first, Sergio. There's one. There's two. And it's all yours. And there you go. And here, my friends, is a tip. And this is, when is a bad thing a good thing? Well, normally, when something falls over in the garden or topples like these zinnias have, typically we think, oh, we need to stake them in some way to support them. But in this case, I don't really care if they fall over, and here's why. Because when they fall over, they break what is called apical dominance, and that is a plant's tendency to grow from the top and skyward and put out a bloom. When they fall over, especially if you kind of secure the stem to the ground, it will break the apical dominance, and every place there is an intersection of the leaf, a leaf node, it will then put up another stem. And so instead of just one that comes up from the top, I will get all sorts of stems that come up along the stem, go vertically, and I will get that many more blooms. So there's a tip when a bad thing in the garden can be a good thing. And here's something else, and this would be my fourth do on a cool and rainy day, and that is, wherever possible, secure any kind of wayward vines that have really gotten out of control during the growing season. And for that, this is one of my favorite things. I love these. I bought these online, but somebody else told me that you could get them at the dollar store. I did not see them there, but I will provide a link. And that is securing vines that have just gone awry. Now you can see my climbing rose. This is Eden. It's really got all sorts of canes that need to be secured to the wire trellising that we created along this window on the east side of the cottage. But I am not going to do it to this rose now, and that is because any kind of plant that is susceptible to, well, any kind of disease like rose rosette or black spot or powdery mildew, those kinds of things, I don't want to mess with them right now while their foliage is wet, because that might encourage the spread of any kind of disease or pests from one area of the plant to the other. So I'm going to wait for a preferably cool but dry day to do this work. And obviously I'm going to have to be able to reach these canes that are up high, so I'm going to have to be on a ladder, and I am not going to do that when there is not someone here to make sure that I am safe. But you can see right here where I've used some of these little clips to secure the roses to the trellising. Okay, now let's go to the back and I'll show you something that I am going to secure. Now, while I don't want to mess with my roses right now, my peppers are fair game. And because of all of the heavy rainfall, they have just really started to go south. So I am going to clip these back to the posts, if I can get my fingers right, the posts that are in place already, so that they don't flop anymore. I can slowly weave some of those around. And then what I have discovered is, even though now the foliage looks kind of cramped, after they have been relocated like this for a while, that foliage will start growing towards the sun, and it will come back this way instead of orienting towards the interior. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one, and that's why I love these clips, because they are just so easy. I'm not messing with any kind of wire ties. These give enough clearance so that there's no abrasion or bruising on the stem. And anything that is this easy, well, let's just say I am a fan of. And the same thing is true for my tomatoes over here. I'm not going to want to mess with them too much, but you can see here I've got one great big vine, and I'll probably do some clipping and some pruning on these, but I've got one great big vine right here that I want to make sure stands up and flies right. So a little bit later I'll come back in. I will tidy these up a little bit more because I want everything to look its best by October 4th. Well, another thing I've been transplanting a lot of is this ajuga, and I've been putting it over there by the new side bed and in my potting area. So I've been doing that, well, almost on a daily basis. But finally, let's talk about number 5, my last thing that you really want to be opportunistic about. And this is probably the most common sense of all. And forgive a little bit of the chaos here, because at the very end, I'm going to show you our project. So walk this way. Walk this way. Talk this way. Okay. By the way, here is something else that you should not do, and that is quit watering your amaryllis. So I should have put this in the garage, because actually I have not been watering it for a good month and a half now, but Mother Nature didn't get that memo. So I need to move this from here into my garage so that it won't get any more rain, because what I want is for this green foliage to die back and then kind of go into a dormancy before I repot them up again around the holidays. But as we all know, amaryllis kind of have a mind of their own. Okay, here is something else that I've been doing. This is kind of fun. So this area right here, every so often I break off some of this Tradescantia and I just stick it into the ground. Nothing fancy here. I literally just stick it in. And this is so easy to do. And in fact, I will probably, by the end of this rainy spell, I will fill all of this up in its entirety with all of this. And you can see how successful this has been so far, in addition to some things that I just seeded in here, and that seed has germinated. I am also putting in some plugs of Sedum Autumn Joy. And I will be spreading that around. And this is a perfect time to do it. Sometimes you don't even have to create a hole. You just kind of stick it down in there. This isn't something I am wanting to look great immediately, but I promise you when I show it to you next spring, you'll be amazed at how successful this gardening in a forgotten place is with stuff that I already had on hand, was and is. Now, number 5. Maybe the most common sense one of all, and also answering a question that many of you have had. Linda, what about this space here and the flower bed that I was wanting to start? Well, number 1, this is going to be a completely no maintenance bed. It has no irrigation. It is right in front of this concrete wall. My friend Lori and I have talked about it, and I am just wanting some things to break down over time. So probably what we will do when we excavate out some dirt from my side garden projects, we'll throw some of that dirt on here. You can see that I'm doing some composting in place. This is where I'm throwing empty containers. I'm wanting to improve this quality of soil a little bit, but I don't really want to go to any kind of expense. I also don't want to go to any kind of expense to create some kind of border in this alleyway, so I'm just using bits and pieces of broken concrete from projects that are going on up and down the alley. This is just trash, if you will, but it will create kind of a border here. So over time, this stuff, especially when it continues raining, this will break down. We'll put more soil on top of it, and then before too long, once it reaches a certain point, we will till it in. But what is my number 5, you say? Well, I've done pretty well at picking all of the weeds from here to there, but you can see here that I haven't attacked this area that has all sorts of crabgrass in it. Now, I could get a shovel out and I could try to dig all of this out, but that's not even really necessary because it pulls out so easily right now. And in short order, I can do this without even a tool. Look how easily that's coming out. Again, this is common sense. This isn't stuff that you don't already know, but it does show us that there are opportunities in time, not just seasonally, but on a day-to-day basis, depending on the weather conditions. And in my gardening manifesto, I talk about how there are moments of opportunity, one being when the seasons change, and one being before and after a rain. So there you go, weed pulling. Look at that. That is better than having a therapist. You just come out and pull this. Once all of this then is ready to plant, I will come back in here like this celosia. I will throw out a lot of seeds that I've got in store. Again, that cost me nothing. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to transplant some perennials that I've got in the front that I think would be better served by being in this location than where they are right now. And because I've gotten some other do's done, this will be my ultimate to-do once I get my other chores accomplished. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed these 5. Do it right now. Don't wait, do it right now. And by the way, I'm well aware that a lot of you are still waiting for a rainy, cool day. We've been very, very fortunate to have this come early in the season. So whenever it does arrive, you will have your list ready. Print it out and put it in your gardening journal. So a couple of other things. Number 1, as always, make sure to subscribe. Give us a follow, a thumbs up if you like this kind of content, and most importantly, share it with others. A lot of you have asked about the garden tour on October 4th. There's a press release that's getting ready to go out. If you plan to come from out of the Oklahoma City area, I really encourage you to do so, not only to support Oklahoma Breast Institute and see the garden, but also because the mansions really that are located just a block from me, that is an area, the Heritage Hill Homes Tour, that's going to be conducted on that same weekend. So you can really get a lot in, pack in a lot on a weekend if you want to take a short trip to Oklahoma City. Finally, let's go see what my last project is, and then we're going to call it good. And finally, with the help of Kayla and her guys, the work on this whole area continues. A couple of things. Number 1, and by the way, I don't think I have ever done a video and had a major question of the day that you guys have not been so engaged in and provided such valuable information to me. I so appreciate it. So my big question of the day is, give me your thoughts on this side garden. Number 1, I asked you about putting gravel in here if you thought that was a good idea. And I'm going to call it good. Kayla, are you going to call it good?
I'm going to call it
Kayla's
excellent.
Not mic'd up,
Yeah.
but I think it looks great.
I like
Yes.
it really well.
Yes. Now, Kayla and I also, we debated whether or not we wanted to put in a little bit bigger. Some of you recommended that. And actually, that was a great recommendation. And I probably would have gone with that, save one reason. And number 1 is because on the other side, on Lori's side, she already has some pea gravel.
That's right.
And actually some of the pea gravel has started to wash away. So I thought this could do nothing but good. Yeah. So if some of this creeps underneath the fence and goes over there, that's fine. Plus, I like the fact that it repeats the pea gravel that I've got in other areas of the garden. And here's another tip. It's a good thing to do when the weather is wet and rainy like it is right now, because instead of looking dusty and chalky, when you put it down, we get those rains and it immediately looks glorious.
Yep. And it's also going to help it settle.
Yeah, it's good.
Because
Oh,
the
okay,
dirt
good to know.
underneath it is a little bit wet, right?
Yeah,
So
good.
anytime you install gravel, it's going to settle.
Yep.
So this is just going to settle a little bit quicker. We're going to
Yeah.
be in and out here for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
We just grab some extra bags and get it leveled back up.
And I think it's gonna look great. The other thing that we're working on that we won't be able to complete until the beginning of September is I asked your opinion on my umbrella, which is a little wayward right now because of all of the rain. And Kayla and I discussed this, and what we decided on was a red sailcloth umbrella, if you will, that we will attach to the brick wall and then over to the fence at an angle. So it will still have that kind of charming, I think, French cafe feel. We are going to do it in red. And it will also, I think the length we ordered was like 10 feet.
Yep.
So we'll get a little bit more
Yeah.
protection.
Give or take from about this post on the fence to
Yeah.
about the post that Stewart is at.
So that will arrive at the beginning of September, and we will get that in place. And then, of course, I'll have lots of putzing and puttering to do to make this look very, very attractive. We've already discussed why I can't put gravel down on this walkway, but I'm doing all sorts of things to make it more attractive. And after all, it was nothing but just a forgotten, ugly space to begin with, so we could do nothing but improve it. Thank you, guys.